Hey, my name is The Rock. Today I am with Sheldon Cooper. Hi there, Sheldon Cooper. Welcome.
Thank you. It's so nice to meet you. I don't typically get pleasant greetings. You're the first one to greet me nicely.
Do you have a favorite moment in The Big Bang Theory?
Oh, so many to pick from. So many. But overall, I'd say the moment when my best friend Leonard and I were awarded a Nobel Prize. We were able to work together to disprove string theory and win. A victory of two great minds. I was so proud of us both, even if Leonard's part in our victory was minimal at most.
What is your funniest moment with Penny on The Big Bang Theory?
Oh, so many hilarious and wonderful moments with Penny. But I'd say the moment when I finally convinced her to play World of Warcraft with me has to be my favorite. She was a terrible player, of course, and we never made much progress in the game, but having her there with me made the entire thing bearable. And we got to make fun of her in the process. It was delightful.
What the hardest scene with Howard?
Oh, I have so many negative things to say about Howard, especially early on. But I'd say that the moment that I absolutely despised him was when he put his hand on my train set. I mean, the guy, absolutely no consideration for me or my things. It was awful.
Did you like young Sheldon?
Well, I suppose I did. I didn't like the way they portrayed my mother, and their depiction of my childhood isn't entirely accurate, but the actor portraying me was adequate. I must say, he's a great imitation of me. He certainly acts like he's the embodiment of perfection, as I am. So, yes, overall I liked young Sheldon.
You was in the movie Home, you play as O.
Oh, yes. I was in the movie Home, and I played O. It was a minor role, but an enjoyable one nonetheless. I loved the opportunity to showcase my acting skills, even if it was just a voice role. It was fun to play as an optimistic and enthusiastic character.
How did you feel working with Jennifer Lopez?
Well, I won't lie to you, working with Jennifer Lopez was an interesting experience. She certainly had a strong personality, and we didn't exactly see eye to eye on everything. But I was able to handle her nonetheless. And my portrayal of O, the character I played in Home, was the absolute best in that whole movie.
What the funniest scene with Matt Jones' movie Home?
Well, there certainly were many funny moments while working with Matt Jones on the movie Home. But if I had to choose one, I'd say the moment when Matt, playing the role of Kyle, stumbled and fell flat on his face while trying to be cool. It was a hilarious scene, and I couldn't help but laugh, even in character.
What the hardest scene with Rihanna movie Home?
Working with Rihanna on the movie Home was a great experience, but there was one particularly difficult scene I remember. We had a scene where Rihanna, playing the role of Tip, was supposed to make a dramatic escape from danger, and the execution of that scene was quite challenging. We had to get the timing and the movements just right, and it took multiple takes to get it just right. But in the end, it was absolutely worth it.
You was in Hidden Figures, you play as Paul Stafford.
Indeed, I had a role in the movie Hidden Figures, and I played the character of Paul Stafford. It was an interesting role, playing the part of a somewhat condescending and arrogant boss, but I enjoyed getting to work alongside such talented actors like Taraji P. Henson, Octavia Spencer, and Janelle Monáe.
What the funniest scene with Taraji P. Henson and Octavia Spencer and Janelle Monáe?
Working with Taraji P. Henson, Octavia Spencer, and Janelle Monáe on Hidden Figures was a wonderful experience, and we had many hilarious moments together. But if I had to choose one, I'd say the moment when Octavia Spencer's character, Mary, accidentally spilled coffee all over herself while we were working on a difficult equations. It was a hilarious moment, and we all burst out laughing together.
What the hardest scene with Aldous Hodge?
Working with Aldous Hodge on Hidden Figures was an absolute pleasure, but we did have one particularly challenging scene together. It was a scene where our characters had a tense and heated argument, and the intensity of the dialogue and emotions was quite difficult to portray. But ultimately, we were able to get it just right, and the scene turned out to be one of the most powerful moments in the film.
You was in Spoiler Alert, you play as Michael Ausiello.
In the movie Spoiler Alert, I played the role of Michael Ausiello, a well-known entertainment journalist. It was an interesting character to portray, and the role gave me the opportunity to explore the world of media and entertainment journalism. The movie featured a heartfelt and emotional story centered around a gay couple, and it was an honor to be a part of it.
What the funniest scene with Paco Lozano?
Working with Paco Lozano on the movie Spoiler Alert was an absolute joy, and we had numerous funny moments together. But if I had to choose one, I'd say the moment when Paco's character, Pablo, made a particularly witty and sarcastic remark about the entertainment industry. It was a hilarious moment, and we both couldn't help but burst out laughing together.
What the hardest scene with Scott Burrick?
Working with Scott Barrick on the movie Spoiler Alert was an enjoyable experience, but we did have one scene that was particularly challenging. It was a scene where our characters were discussing a sensitive and emotional topic, and the dialogue and emotions were intense and impactful. We had to work together closely to ensure that the scene came across as authentic and heartfelt. But in the end, we were able to deliver a powerful performance that resonated with audiences.
You was in The Boys in the Band, you play as Michael.
In the movie The Boys in the Band, I played the role of Michael, a member of a group of gay men who gather for a friend's birthday party. It was an interesting character to portray, and the movie explored themes of identity, relationships, and societal norms. The story was set in the 1960s, which added a historical context to the film, and it was an enjoyable experience to be a part of it.
With the funniest scene with Andrew Rannells.
Working with Andrew Rannells on the movie The Boys in the Band was a delight, and we had several funny moments together. But if I had to choose one, I'd say the moment when Andrew's character, Emery, delivered a particularly witty and sarcastic one-liner. His timing and delivery were spot on, and it had us both laughing uncontrollably.
What the hardest scene with Charlie Carver?
Working with Charlie Carver on the movie The Boys in the Band was a great experience, but there was one scene that was particularly challenging. It was a scene where our characters had an intense and emotional conversation about their past relationships and experiences. We had to delve into some deep and personal emotions, and it required a lot of concentration and focus to get just right. But ultimately, we were able to create a powerful and moving scene that resonated with audiences.
You was in The Muppets, you play as Human Walter.
In the 2011 movie The Muppets, I played the role of Human Walter, a character who serves as the human counterpart to the main character, Walter's alter ego in the movie. The role required me to portray a mild-mannered and soft-spoken character who is in complete contrast to the mischievous and wild Muppet Walter. It was an enjoyable experience working with the Muppets and being a part of this entertaining and whimsical film.
What the funniest moment scene with Steve Whitmire?
It was always a pleasure to work with Steve Whitmire on The Muppets. The moment that sticks out to me was during a routine rehearsal when his Muppet character, Kermit the Frog, accidentally dropped a tomato, causing it to burst hilariously on the floor. The whole crew was in stitches, and it was a moment of pure joy and fun on set.
What the hardest scene with Emily Blunt?
Working with Emily Blunt on the movie The Muppets was an enjoyable experience, but we had one particularly challenging scene together. It was a scene where my character Walter and her character Miss Piggy had to engage in a lively and spirited dance routine. It required us to coordinate our movements carefully and execute the dance moves perfectly, and we had to work closely together to make sure we got it just right. We were able to create a delightful and engaging scene that was a highlight of the movie.
You was in A Kid Like Jake, you play as Greg Wheeler.
In the movie A Kid Like Jake, I had the pleasure of playing the role of Greg Wheeler, a supportive father of a young boy who is unique and intelligent. It was an interesting character to portray, as Greg is a loving and protective father who is also struggling with his own anxieties and fears. The movie explored themes of identity, acceptance, and the challenges of raising a child who is different, and it was an honor to be a part of it.
What the funniest moment with Leo James Davis and Claire Danes?
Working with Leo James Davis and Claire Danes on the movie A Kid Like Jake was an absolute joy. We had many funny moments together, but one that stands out is when Leo's character, Jake, accidentally dropped his favorite toy, and Claire's character, Greg's wife, Julie, tried to comfort him by singing a silly song. We all burst out laughing, and it was a delightful moment of lightheartedness amidst the more emotional scenes.
What the hardest scene with Priyanka Chopra and Kelly Dedman?
Working with Priyanka Chopra and Kelly Dedman on the movie A Kid Like Jake was a rewarding but also challenging experience. One of the hardest scenes for me was when the characters, Greg, Julie, and Emily, had a heartfelt conversation about their son, Jake. This scene required a lot of emotional depth and authenticity, and our performances had to be just right to capture the complexity and intensity of the moment. The scene was emotionally charged, and it was a real test of our acting skills.
You was in Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, you play as Larry Simpson.
In the movie, Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, I had the honor of playing the role of Larry Simpson, a lawyer who defends Ted Bundy during his trial. It was a unique and challenging role to portray, as I had to showcase the legal expertise and tactical mind of Larry, as well as the ethical dilemmas he faced in his representation of Bundy.
What the funniest scene with James Hetfield?
While working on Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil and Vile, the funniest moment came when I had to work with the legendary guitarist, James Hetfield. During the filming of one of the courtroom scenes, a technical glitch occurred, and we had to wait for a few minutes for the issue to be resolved. To pass the time, James and I started chatting, and he told me a few hilarious stories about his experiences in the music industry. It was a fun moment that added a bit of levity to an otherwise tense situation.
What the hardest scene with Zac Efron?
Working with Zac Efron in Extremely Wicked, Shockingly Evil, and Vile was an amazing experience. But one of the most challenging scenes to film was the scene where Ted Bundy and Larry Simpson are in the interrogation room. It required a lot of emotional depth and realism from both Zac and me, and we had to portray the intensity and complexity of the power dynamic between the two characters. It was a difficult scene to get just right, but luckily Zac and I worked well together and were able to create a powerful and gripping moment.
You was in Garden State, you played as Tim.
In the movie Garden State, I had the privilege of playing the role of Tim, a friend of the protagonist, Andrew, played by Zach Braff. Tim was an interesting character who provided comedic relief and also played a supportive role in the main character's journey. The movie was well received and became a cult classic, known for its indie style and unique soundtrack.
What the funniest scene with Zach Braff?
Working with Zach Braff on Garden State was a blast, and we had many hilarious moments together. But if I had to pick one, it would be the scene where my character Tim drives Andrew to the airport while they both sing and dance to the iconic song New Slang. The scene was both funny and heartwarming, and it showcased the brotherly relationship between the two characters.
What the hardest scene with Natalie Portman?
Working with Natalie Portman on Garden State was an incredible experience. And we had several challenging scenes together. One of the hardest scenes to film was the final scene of the movie, which required a great deal of emotional depth and vulnerability from both of us. The scene was particularly challenging because it was the culmination of the main character's journey, and it required us to fully immerse ourselves in the emotions and moment. It was a difficult scene to get just right, but we were both able to give it our all and deliver a powerful performance.
You was in The Normal Heart, you play as Tommy Boatwright.
In the TV movie The Normal Heart, I played the role of Tommy Boatwright, a close friend of the main character Ned Weeks, played by Mark Ruffalo. Tommy was an important and supportive character in the story, and he served as a source of comfort and strength for Ned as he navigated the challenges of the AIDS epidemic in the 1980s. It was an honor to portray such an important character in this powerful and impactful story.
What the funniest moment with Mark Ruffalo?
Working with Mark Ruffalo on The Normal Heart was a truly enjoyable experience, and we had numerous funny moments together. One moment that stands out is when we were filming a scene where our characters, Ned and Tommy, are having a playful argument, and Mark couldn't help but keep bursting into laughter, making it difficult to continue shooting the scene. We both had to take a few moments to compose ourselves before we could continue.
What the hardest scene with Jonathan Groff?
The hardest scene I had with Jonathan Groff was the scene where we had an emotional argument about the AIDS epidemic and the lack of government response. This scene required us both to dig deep and tap into the anger and heartbreak our characters were feeling, which was difficult. But through the direction of Ryan Murphy, we were able to deliver a powerful and impactful scene that moved audiences.
You was in For the Love of Spock, you play as yourself?
In the documentary film For the Love of Spock, I played myself, as the film focused on the life and legacy of my dear friend and colleague, Leonard Nimoy. The film was a love letter to Leonard, and it explored his career as an actor, particularly his iconic portrayal of Mr. Spock in the Star Trek franchise. It was a heartfelt and personal documentary that celebrated Leonard's life and impact on popular culture.
What's your reaction working with Adam Nimoy?
Working with Adam Nimoy on the documentary film For the Love of Spock was a deeply emotional and fulfilling experience. Adam is a talented director and filmmaker, and he did an incredible job of capturing the essence of Leonard Nimoy and his legacy in Star Trek. I was honored to be a part of this project, and it was a true privilege to be able to share my memories and thoughts on my dearest friend and brother.
What the funniest scene with Simon Pegg?
Working with Simon Pegg on the documentary film For the Love of Spock, there were many moments where his witty humor shone through, but one particular scene stands out as particularly humorous. During an interview, Simon accidentally mixed up the names of two iconic Star Trek characters, and we couldn't help but laugh at his faux pas. It was a lighthearted and humorous moment in an otherwise emotional documentary.
What the hardest scene with Carl Urban?
The hardest scene to film with Carl Urban on For the Love of Spock was the scene where he spoke about the impact that Leonard Nimoy's portrayal of Spock had on him as an actor and a person. This scene required Carl to tap into a deep level of emotion as he discussed the profound influence that Leonard had on his career and life. Difficult moment to get just right, but Carl's emotional vulnerability was showcased perfectly in the final product.
He was in The Big Year, you play as Crane?
In the movie The Big Year, I played Crane, a middle-aged man who decides to take a year off work to go on a birdwatching adventure and try to set a new record for the number of species seen in 1 year. Crane is a passionate birdwatcher and has been obsessed with the hobby for many years, and I enjoyed playing a character who is both intensely focused and surprisingly funny as well.
What you thought working with Jack Black and Owen Wilson?
Working with Jack Black and Owen Wilson was an absolute joy. They are both incredibly talented actors and comedians, and they brought such energy and humor to the film. Jack's boundless energy and infectious laughter were a constant source of entertainment on set, while Owen's deadpan delivery and dry wit added a touch of sophistication to the humor. It was truly a pleasure to work with them both, and we had many laughs together throughout the filming of The Big Year.
What the funniest scene with Owen Wilson and Jack Black?
One of the funniest moments on set with Owen Wilson and Jack Black was during a scene where our characters were trying to find a rare bird species in a dense forest. Jack, who was playing the role of Stu, kept slipping and falling in the mud, while Owen, playing Kenny, couldn't help but laugh at his misfortune. The scene was a true comedy of errors, with Jack's character getting covered in mud and struggling to get back up while Owen was in hysterics. It took us several takes to get through the scene without breaking into fits of laughter.
What the hardest scene with Cindy Busby and Angelica Houston?
The hardest scene to shoot with Cindy Busby and Angelica Houston, in the movie The Big Year, was a scene set in a remote and cold location. Angelica, who played the role of Mary, was supposed to deliver a monologue while standing in the freezing cold. It was a challenging scene for Angelica, as she had to deliver a powerful performance while dealing with the discomfort of the cold weather. Despite the difficulties, Angelica and Cindy were both professional and dedicated, and they were able to deliver a memorable scene in the end.
You was in Judging Amy. You play as Rob Holbrook.
In the TV show Judging Amy, I played the role of Rob Holbrook, a charismatic lawyer who becomes a love interest for the main character Amy, a judge. It was a recurring role, and I had the opportunity to explore different aspects of Rob's character, from his charm and wit to his vulnerabilities and flaws. The role allowed me to showcase a different side of my acting abilities, and it was a pleasure to be a part of this critically acclaimed TV show.
What the funniest scene with Amy Brenneman?
There were numerous scenes with Amy Brenneman on Judging Amy that were hilarious, but one that stands out in my mind was a scene where our characters had a playful argument about a case that they were working on. The dialogue was fast-paced and witty, with both of us delivering some sharp one-liners and clever comebacks. It was a fun scene to shoot, and I thoroughly enjoyed the chemistry that Amy and I had on screen.
What the hardest scene with Catherine Lanassa?
One of the hardest scenes with Catherine Lanassa on Judging Amy was a courtroom scene, where our characters were engaged in a particularly intense and heated argument. It was a challenging scene because we had to convey a lot of emotion and intensity while maintaining a sense of professionalism and composure. It required us to really focus and be present in the moment, and it was a true test of our acting abilities. But we were able to work well together and deliver a strong performance in the end.
You was in 200 episodes later Family Guy. You play yourself.
Yes, I did make a guest appearance on the popular animated sitcom Family Guy in the episode 200 Episodes Later, where I played myself. The episode celebrated the show's milestone of reaching 200 episodes, and I was honored to be a part of it. As myself, I was able to poke fun at my public image and play along with the show's satirical take on pop culture and famous figures.
What your thoughts working with Scott Grimes?
Working with Scott Grimes on Family Guy was a real pleasure. He's an incredibly talented actor and a hilarious person, with a great sense of humor and a warm personality. We got along really well on set and had a lot of fun recording our lines together. He was also a great sport and really got into the spirit of the show, which made it even more enjoyable to work with him. I would welcome the opportunity to work with him again in the future.
What the funniest moment with Richard Appel?
One of the funniest moments I had with Richard Appel, one of the writers on Family Guy, was during a brainstorming session where we were trying to come up with ideas for a new episode. Richard came up with a zany and outlandish idea that was so ridiculous that none of us could stop laughing for several minutes. It was a great moment of creative chemistry and camaraderie, and it really showcased the playful and irreverent sense of humor that is so characteristic of the show.
What the hardest scene with Seth MacFarlane?
The film with Seth MacFarlane, the creator and producer of Family Guy, was a scene where we had to perform a difficult physical stunt. Seth was determined to make sure the scene was executed correctly, and he was very hands-on and involved in every aspect of the production. He pushed us to our limit, and it took several takes to get the scene just right, but in the end, it was worth it because the final product was hilarious and a fan favorite.
You was in Elf Buddy's musical Christmas play as Buddy.
That's correct. In Elf, Buddy's Musical Christmas, I played the beloved character of Buddy, the cheerful and childlike misfit who embarks on a chaotic journey to find his real father in New York City during the holiday season. It was a delightful experience to bring Buddy to life once again in this Christmas special, and I thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to reprise my role and share the character's infectious enthusiasm and joyful spirit with audiences.
What's your reaction working with Gilbert Gottfried?
Working with Gilbert Gottfried on Elf Buddy's Musical Christmas was a true pleasure. His distinctive voice and comedic timing were an absolute joy to work with, and he brought so much character and personality to his role as the narrator. Getting to share the screen with him was a real treat for me, and we had a lot of laughs together on set. It was a great experience to be part of such a fun and festive production, and I hope to work with Gilbert again in the future.
What the funniest moment you have with Gilbert Gottfried?
One of the funniest moments I had with Gilbert Gottfried during the production of Elf Buddy's Musical Christmas was when he started off on an impromptu joke tangent, riffing on his classic one-liners and offbeat humor. The room was filled with laughter as he rattled off joke after joke, each one funnier than the last. It was a joyous moment on set, and Gilbert's quick wit and delivery were truly impressive. We all had a great time listening to his comedic genius at work.
What the hardest scene with Mark Hamill?
The hardest scene to film with Mark Hamill in Elf Buddy's Musical Christmas was the scene where the two of us had to interact with each other while flying through the air. It was a technically challenging scene, as it required the use of special effects and precise execution to make it look realistic. Both Mark and I were in our stunt harnesses, and we had to coordinate our movements carefully to ensure everything went smoothly. But in the end, we were able to pull it off, and the scene looked great on screen.
You as in Visions, you play as Dr. Matheson?
That's correct. In Visions, I played the role of Dr. Matheson, a brilliant scientist who is haunted by eerie visions of the past and future. The character is deeply troubled and isolated and struggles to understand the meaning of his visions. I enjoyed exploring the complexities of this character and portraying the emotional turmoil he experiences throughout the film.
What though working with Bryce Johnson and Michael Villar?
Working with Bryce Johnson and Michael Villar in Visions was a pleasure. They are both talented actors, and we had great chemistry together on set. Bryce brought depth and emotion to his role, while Michael added humor and levity to the film. It was a fun and challenging experience, but we worked well together and supported each other throughout the shoot.
What the funniest scene with Jeff Branson and Jason McNichols?
The funniest scene with Jeff Branson and Jason McNichols in Visions was a scene where our characters are preparing for a Halloween party. The scene was filled with clever banter and hilarious moments as we were in full costume, and the sight of us in our ridiculous attire had us both bursting into peals of laughter. It was a fun moment on set, and we had a great time playing off each other's sense of humor and adding our own ad-libs to the scene.
What the hardest scene with Annie Tedesco and Elizabeth Rowan and Eva Longoria?
The hardest scene to film in Visions involving Annie Tedesco, Elizabeth Rowan, and Eva Longoria was a scene that required a lot of physicality and choreography. We had to move in sync with each other and perform a highly complex and demanding sequence. It required a lot of focus and coordination, and we had to practice the scene multiple times to get it just right. But with the guidance of the director and our own dedication, we were able to pull it off, and the scene turned out great.
Wish I Was Here you play as Paul.
I played the character of Paul, a father who is going through a midlife crisis in the film Wish I Was Here. I enjoyed exploring the emotional journey of my character, who experiences a variety of challenges and obstacles as he tries to figure out his direction in life. It was a rewarding experience to play a complex and flawed character like Paul, and I enjoyed delving into the depths of his experiences and emotions.
What's your thoughts working with Joey King?
Working with Joey King on Wish I Was Here was a delightful experience. She's an incredibly talented actress, full of energy and enthusiasm, and she brought so much life and spark to the set. I adored every moment we worked together, and there was never a dull moment with her around. She's not only immensely talented, but also a joy to be around, and I feel privileged to have had the opportunity to work with her on this film.
What the funniest scene with Joey King?
There were quite a few funny moments with Joey King while filming Wish I Was Here, but one that stands out in my mind is a scene where our characters are playing a game and Joey's character tries to cheat. Her attempts to be secretive and sly are comical, and the facial expressions she makes are priceless. We couldn't stop laughing as we filmed the scene, and it was a genuine and joyful moment on set.
What the hardest scene with Ashley Greene?
The hardest scene I had with Ashley Greene in Wish I Was Here was a dramatic scene where our characters had a heated conversation about their past and future together. It was an intense and emotionally charged moment, and we had to dig deep into our acting abilities to make it feel authentic and raw. We had to bring all of our emotions to the surface and play off each other's energy to create a realistic and powerful scene. It was a challenging and exhausting experience, but we were both proud of the end result.
You was in School for Scoundrels. You play as classmate number 2.
In the movie School for Scoundrels, I played the role of Classmate 2, a character who has a minor but memorable appearance in a class scene. Though my role was not a central one, I enjoyed being a part of this hilarious comedy film and getting to be a part of the witty and playful atmosphere on set. Working with a talented cast and crew was a pleasure, and I had a lot of fun working on this project.
What the funniest with Leonard Earl Howes and Aziz Ansari and Bob Stevenson and Joe Nunez and Andy Daly?
The funniest moments in School for Scoundrels came from working with Leonard Earl Howes, Aziz Ansari, Bob Stevenson, Joe Nunez, and Andy Daly. The scene in which all of us appear together is filled with hilarious jokes and witty banter, and we had a great time working together and keeping things loose and lighthearted on set. It was a pleasure to be a part of this group, and the chemistry between us made the experience all the more enjoyable.
What the hardest scene with Noel Guglielmi?
The hardest scene to film with Noel Guglielmi in School for Scoundrels was a scene where our characters confronted each other in a confrontational and hostile manner. We had to draw on strong emotions and intense energy to make the scene feel natural and believable. It was a difficult scene to get just right, but with the help of the director and our dedication, we were able to deliver a powerful performance.
You was in the Superhero Squad show. You play as Nightmare.
In the Superhero Squad show, I played the character of Nightmare, a character known for its menacing presence and intimidating demeanor. I enjoyed playing a role that was so vastly different from myself, and it was a nice change of pace to get to explore the dark and sinister side of the character. It was a fun...
What's your reaction work with Jim Cummings and Tara Strong and Tom Kenny?
Working with Jim Cummings, Tara Strong, and Tom Kenny on the Superhero Squad show was a real treat. They are all incredibly talented voice actors, and it was a pleasure to be a part of the same project with them. We all had a great time recording together, and they added so much life and energy to the show. It was a joy to work with them and seeing the final product come together.
What your funny moment with Tom Kenny?
There were so many hilarious moments working with Tom Kenny on the Superhero Squad show, but if I had to pick one, it would be a scene where we were ad-libbing and came up with a really funny line that had everyone laughing. It was one of those magical moments on set where the chemistry between actors just clicked, and we were all having a blast together. Tom Kenny is a great guy and incredibly funny, and those moments of improvisation were some of the most memorable moments for me.
What the hardest scene with Jim Cummings?
The hardest scene to film with Jim Cummings in the Superhero Squad show was a scene that required a lot of physicality and choreography. We had to coordinate our movements carefully, and it took a lot of focus and coordination to get it just right. But with Jim's great personality and a little bit of hard work, we were able to make it work.
You was unraveling the mystery. A Big Bang. Farewell, you play as yourself.
That is correct. In Unraveling the Mystery, A Big Bang Farewell, I did indeed play as myself. This documentary was a special farewell to the beloved show The Big Bang Theory, and it was an honor to be part of it.
You was in On the Road with Judas. You play as Jimmy P.
That's correct. In On the Road with Judas, I played the role of Jimmy P., a character who serves as a follower and companion to the protagonist, Judas. It was a challenging role to play, as I had to portray a character who is both loyal and conflicted, and my performance was well received by viewers.
What the funniest moment with Judy Del Giudice?
One of the funniest moments with Judy Del Giudice in On the Road with Judas was a scene where our characters were having a playful argument. There was a lot of back and forth between us, and we were both cracking up and having a great time. The scene was so hilarious that we had to do several takes to get it just right, and we had a blast working on it together.
What the hardest scene with Amanda Longcar?
The hardest scene to film with Amanda Longcar in On the Road with Judas was a scene where we had to deliver a lot of exposition and backstory. It was a challenging scene because we had to make sure we were delivering the dialogue clearly and effectively, and we had to make sure we were hitting the right emotional beats. But with hard work and dedication, we were able to pull it off and deliver a powerful scene that added depth to the story.
You was in Michael Jackson's Halloween. You play as Hey-Man?
Yes, that's correct. In Michael Jackson's Halloween, I played the part of Hey-Man, a spooky and eerie character who appeared in the special. I enjoyed playing this role, as it allowed me to tap into my scary side and create a haunting and otherworldly character.
What the funniest scene with Kiersey Clemens?
In the animated special Michael Jackson's Halloween, one of the funniest segments featured Kiersey Clemens' character, whose interaction with the Hey-Man character, played by me, was hilarious. With her sassy personality and quick wit, she brought a lot of humor to the scene. It was a fun and lighthearted moment in the special.
What the hardest scene with Lucas Till and Alan Cumming?
The hardest scene to film in Michael Jackson's Halloween, featuring Lucas Till and Alan Cumming, was a scene where we had to perform a particularly difficult and acrobatic dance routine. The choreography was complex and required a lot of precision and coordination. It took several takes to get it right, and we had to work hard to make sure everything looked seamless on screen. But with dedication and hard work, we were able to pull it off and deliver a dynamic and visually stunning scene.
You as in Benny Loves You play as yourself.
In the movie Benny Loves You, I played myself, as the film is a fictional horror comedy that incorporates various elements from my own life and career, creating a unique and entertaining story. It was a fun experience to play a character that was based on myself, and I enjoyed seeing how the writers and filmmakers interpreted my life and career into a horror comedy setting.
What's your thoughts work on Bella Monday?
Working with Bella Monday on Benny Loves You was a pleasure. She is a talented and dedicated actress, and she brought a lot of energy and creativity to her performance. She was a joy to work with, and she brought a lot of heart and humanity to her role. Overall, it was a great experience working with her, and I consider us dear friends.
What the funniest scene with Claire Cartwright?
One of the funniest scenes we had together was a scene where we were both doing ridiculous things to each other's hair, trying out various styles and haircuts. We were both laughing uncontrollably, to the point where we had to stop and catch our breaths. It was a fun moment, and we both had a great time joking around together.
What the hardest scene with Anthony Styles?
One of the hardest scenes to film in Benny Loves You was a scene where I had to act with the animatronic puppet version of my character. The animatronic puppet was very heavy and cumbersome to use, making it difficult to move around and deliver my lines. It took a lot of effort and focus to get the scene right, but we were able to make it work and deliver a convincing performance in the end.
You as in Happy End, you play as casting assistant.
Yes, that's correct. In the movie Happy End, I played the role of a casting assistant, which was a relatively small but impactful role. My character was responsible for helping choose the cast members for the project, and my performance was appreciated for its subtle and realistic portrayal of the role.
What's your reaction work with Tom Parker?
Working with Tom Parker on the movie Happy End was a wonderful experience. He is a talented and charismatic actor, and I enjoyed every moment we spent together on set. He is also a great teacher and helped me with the nuances of the character. We had a lot of fun working together, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have worked with him.
What the funniest scene with Jenna Lamia?
There was one scene in the movie Happy End where we had to act as if we were eating soup. We had to make exaggerated facial expressions and noises to make it seem like we were enjoying the soup, but it was really difficult for us to keep a straight face. We both ended up bursting out in laughter several times, even though it was just soup. It was definitely one of the funniest scenes on set.
What the hardest scene with Juan Carlos Hernandez?
The hardest scene to film in Happy End that involved me and Juan Carlos Hernandez was difficult to coordinate. It was a scene where we had to work with a puppet, and the movements had to be synchronized to make it look realistic on screen. It was a challenging task and required a lot of practice and precision. But thanks to the amazing team and everyone involved, we managed to get it right in the end.
You as in Bloodfather, you play yourself.
Yes, that's correct. In the movie Bloodfather, I made a cameo appearance as myself. I played a character version of myself who happened to be in the story. It was a unique and fun experience to play a fictionalized version of myself, and I enjoyed the creative freedom it allowed me.
What the funniest scene with Tate Fletcher?
The funniest scene I had with Tate Fletcher in Bloodfather was a scene where we were supposed to shoot pool. Tate's character was supposed to make a hard shot, and I was supposed to cheer him on. But instead, Tate missed the shot, and I couldn't help but laugh at the situation. The moment perfectly captured the humor and unpredictability of our characters' relationship, and it was a blast to film. You can watch the deleted scene on the DVD bonus features.
What the hardest scene with Elizabeth Rome?
The scene that was the hardest to film with Elizabeth Rome in Bloodfather was one where we had to portray a tense and intense interaction. It required a lot of emotional energy and a lot of focus. We had to make sure that the scene looked realistic and believable, and it took a lot of effort to get it right. But in the end, we nailed it and delivered a powerful performance.
You as in Staged, you play yourself.
That's right. My role in Staged was to play the very character I am, myself. The series is a show within a show that follows a fictionalized version of me and David Tennant. It was an interesting experience to play myself in a fictional setting, and the show allowed for some delightful moments of satire and self-deprecation.
What your thoughts working on Ben Schwartz?
Working with Ben Schwartz on stage was an absolute joy. He is incredibly talented and has a great sense of humor and improvisation skills. We had a lot of fun working together, and the chemistry between us was great. We had some hilarious moments while filming the segments together, which made the whole experience a lot more enjoyable.
What the funniest scene with Ben Schwartz?
There are so many funny moments with Ben Schwartz in Staged. If I have to pick just one, it would be the moment where we were both trying to improvise a scene and just ended up saying no, 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 no to each other over and over again, getting increasingly annoyed. We were both laughing hysterically, and it was a wonderful moment of genuine on-set shenanigans.
What the hardest scene with Georgia Tennant?
The hardest scene to film with Georgia Tennant in Staged was a particularly emotional and poignant scene that required a lot of focus and intensity. We had to dig deep in order to deliver a powerful and authentic performance, and it took a lot of effort and rehearsal to get it right. But in the end, with our dedication and hard work, we were able to create a scene that was both moving and impactful.
You as in Janky Promoters, you play yourself.
Yes, that's correct. I did have a cameo appearance in the movie Janky Promoters, where I played a fictionalized version of myself. It was a fun experience to jump into the world of the movie and play a role that was based on my own persona.
What your reaction working with Ice Cube?
Working with Ice Cube on Janky Promoters was an incredible experience. He is a true professional and a pleasure to collaborate with. He brought a lot of energy and charisma to his role, and it was inspiring to see his dedication and passion for the project. We had a great time working together and created some pretty funny moments on set. It was a pleasure to be able to work with such a talent, and I consider it an honor to have been able to share the screen with him.
What the funniest scene with Jeezy?
The funniest scene with Jeezy in Janky Promoters was a scene where our characters were trying to make a music video, but things kept going wrong. Between technical difficulties and the sheer absurdity of the situation, it was a constant source of hilarity on set. We had many moments of laughter as we tried to keep a straight face and get the scene filmed.
What the hardest scene with Aloma Wright?
The hardest scene to film with Aloma Wright and Janky Promoters was a difficult and emotionally charged moment where the characters were in the middle of a disagreement. Both Aloma and I had to dig deep into our feelings and deliver a powerful and believable performance. It was a challenging scene, but with our dedication and hard work, we were able to bring the scene to life in a way that was intense and impactful.
You as in Super Mansion, you play as Mr. Ski Bumpers?
That's correct. In the animated series Super Mansion, I played the role of the eccentric and brilliant CEO of Ski Bum Technologies named Mr. Ski Bumpers. It was a fun character to portray, and I enjoyed playing a character with such exaggerated personality traits.
What you thought working with Yvette Nicole Brown?
Working with Yvette Nicole Brown on Super Mansion was a wonderful experience. She's an incredibly talented actress and a joy to work with. She brought a lot of energy and enthusiasm to the project, and her positive attitude was contagious. We had a lot of fun working together, and her comedic timing and delivery were top-notch. I consider myself lucky to have had the opportunity to work with her on the show.
What the funniest scene with Yvette Nicole Brown?
The funniest scene with Yvette Nicole Brown in Super Mansion was a scene where our characters got into a ridiculous disagreement over a seemingly inconsequential matter. The scene was filled with nonsensical arguments and comical insults that had us both in stitches. We had to work hard to keep a straight face throughout the take, but ultimately we ended up cracking up and having to take a few extra takes to get the scene right.
What the hardest scene with Gary Anthony Williams?
One of the hardest scenes, in the best way, I had with Gary Anthony Williams in Super Mansion was during a scene that required high energy and physicality. We had to perform a series of exaggerated movements and facial expressions, which was physically exhausting. Despite the challenges, we had a great time working together and pushing each other to give it our all.
You was in Gardener of Eden, you play as Spim?
That's right! In the movie Gardener of Eden, I played the role of Spim, a mysterious and otherworldly creature. The character was unique and fun to portray, and I enjoyed bringing a bit of mystique to the film.
What the funniest scene with Emily Wickersham?
The funniest scene I had with Emily Wickersham in Gardener of Eden was a scene where our characters were interacting with each other in a humorous and playful manner. It was filled with witty banter and amusing moments that had us both cracking up. We had a lot of fun working together on that scene, and it was a pleasure to work with Emily, who had a great sense of humor and comedic timing.
What the hardest scene with Lucas Haas?
The hardest scene to film with Lucas Haas in Gardener of Eden was a scene that required a lot of physicality and energy. We had to execute a series of complex and demanding movements, and it took a lot of coordination and effort to get it right. Despite the challenges, we were both dedicated and committed to making the scene the best it could be, and ultimately we were proud of the final result.
You was in Heights, you play as Oliver.
That is correct. I played the role of Oliver in the movie Heights. The character was a complex and troubled individual who was dealing with various issues and emotions. It was a challenging role to play, but I enjoyed getting to explore the depths of his character and bring humanity to his story.
What though work with Glenn Close and Elizabeth Banks and James Marsden?
Working with Glenn Close, Elizabeth Banks, and James Marsden in Heights was an absolute dream. All three are incredibly talented and professional actors, and they have a wealth of experience to bring to their craft. They were generous and supportive to work with, and they brought their unique personalities and styles to the project. We had a lot of fun working together, and they helped make the experience truly special.
What the funniest scene with Glenn Close and Elizabeth Banks and James Marsden?
The funniest scene with Glenn Close, Elizabeth Banks, and James Marsden in Heights was a scene where we were stuck together in a small enclosed space. The scene was filled with awkward interactions and funny moments that had us all laughing. Despite the tight quarters, we managed to work together and make the scene work, while adding our own humor to the mix.
What the hardest scene with Susan Malik?
The hardest scene to film with Susan Malik in Heights was a scene that required a lot of emotional energy and intensity. I had to tap into some deep emotions and deliver a powerful performance, and it was a challenge to get right. But with Susan's guidance and support, I was able to deliver a performance that I was proud of.
You was in The Great New Wonderful, you play as Justin.
That is correct. I played the role of Justin in the movie The Great New Wonderful. The character was a complex and flawed individual who was struggling with various issues and emotions. It was a challenging role to play, but I enjoyed exploring his character and bringing him to life on screen.
What thought working with Tom McCarthy and Tony Shalhoub, Will Arnett, and Sam Catlin?
Working on The Great New Wonderful with Tom McCarthy, Tony Shalhoub, and Sam Catlin was an absolute pleasure. Their talent, combined with their hard work and dedication, made the process of creating a great film much easier. We had a lot of fun working together, bouncing ideas off of each other and collaborating to bring the story to life. I learned a lot from them and consider them some of the best people I've ever worked with.
What the funniest scene with Tony Shalhoub?
The funniest scene I had with Tony Shalhoub in The Great New Wonderful was a scene where our characters engaged in a playful argument. Tony's natural comedian talent shined in this scene, and his quick wit and sarcasm kept me laughing throughout our interaction. We both had a great time working on the scene. It was a highlight of the film for me.
What the hardest scene with Seth Gilliam?
The hardest scene to film with Seth Gilliam in The Great New Wonderful was a scene that required us to portray intense emotions and interact in a very raw and vulnerable way. It was emotionally draining to play out, but with Seth's support and dedication, we were able to deliver a performance that was authentic and impactful.
What's your thoughts about The Big Bang Theory Christmas?
The Big Bang Theory holiday episodes were always a treat to watch. They brought a sense of seasonal cheer and warmth to the show, while still sticking to the show's signature humor. The writers did a great job of incorporating the holidays into the plot in a subtle way, and the characters' reactions to the festivities were always entertaining. Overall, the Big Bang Theory Christmas episodes were a great addition to the show and served as a fun and festive escape from the normal routine.
You was in Man-Witch, you play yourself.
That's correct. I made a cameo appearance in the movie Man-Witch. The movie is a satirical take on the classic monster movie genre, and my role was self-referential and humorous. It was a fun opportunity to be a part of the project, and I enjoyed playing a version of myself in the context of a campy and silly movie.
What the funniest moment with Jack Black?
One of the funniest moments with Jack Black in Man-Witch was a scene where our characters were engaged in a playful banter. Jack's comedic timing and goofy personality shone through in this scene, and it was a blast to work with him. We had a lot of fun making each other laugh and adding our own sense of humor to the scene. It was a great moment of improvisation and a funny moment that stuck with me even after filming was done.
What the hardest scene with Zach Galifianakis?
The hardest scene I had with Zach Galifianakis in Man-Witch was a scene that required a lot of physicality and improvisation. We had to deliver our lines while physically interacting with each other, and it took a lot of coordination and effort to make sure everything looked right on camera. But with Zach's sense of humor and easygoing attitude, we were able to make the scene playful and fun, even amidst the technical challenges.
What thought on the Big Bang Theory cast and creators live at Palais Fest?
The Big Bang Theory cast and creators' live appearance at PaleyFest was fantastic. The PaleyFest events are always a treat for fans, and seeing the cast and creators of The Big Bang Theory on stage together was a real honor. It was a great opportunity to hear directly from the people who created and brought the show to life. And it was interesting to hear their thoughts and insights on the show and the characters. Overall, it was a wonderful event for fans of the show, and a great way to celebrate the legacy of The Big Bang Theory.
What was your childhood?
My childhood was fairly typical, growing up in Houston, Texas. I enjoyed playing with my brothers and sisters, and exploring the neighborhood with my friends. We play games, go on adventures, and get into all sorts of mischief. I was a bit of a mischievous kid, and I was often getting into trouble because my imagination was limitless. I spent a lot of time reading, drawing, and looking through my mom's huge collection of records. Rock and roll, soul, country, everything. I loved that time in my life, and I'm grateful to have had such a great childhood, surrounded by family, friends, and lots.
How you being an actor?
Being an actor was something I always felt drawn to. I loved the idea of taking on different personalities and stepping into someone else's shoes. When I started out, I took any opportunity I could to get on stage and perform in front of people. I would act out scenes from my favorite movies and even make up my own dialogue. It was a great way to explore different characters and express myself creatively. Over time, I found that I enjoyed the craft of acting more and more, and I continued to refine my skills and learn from the best in the industry.
You won Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series.
Yes, that's correct. I won a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series in 2013. The Big Bang Theory won the award for Best Comedy Series, and I was honored and grateful to be recognized for my work on the show. Winning the Emmy was a significant moment in my career, and it was a great feeling to be recognized for my contributions to the show, along with my co-stars and the talented team behind The Big Bang Theory.
You won Golden Globe Award, 2 Critics' Choice Television Awards, and Screen Actors Guild Award, as well as a nomination for a Tony Award.
True. I have been honored with multiple awards, including the Golden Globe Award, 2 Critics' Choice Television Awards, and a Screen Actors Guild Award. These accolades have been a testament to my dedication to the craft of acting and my commitment to excellence in my work. I also had the honor of receiving a Tony Award nomination for my work on Broadway, further solidifying my status as a well-rounded and accomplished actor. I am forever grateful for these awards and the recognition they have brought to my career.
You was in Late Night with Seth Meyers. You met your husband on a blind date.
Yes, my relationship with my husband began with a blind date organized by our mutual friend Seth Meyers, host of Late Night with Seth Meyers. It was through this introduction that I met my future husband, and it was love at first sight. From that moment on, we were inseparable. Our love story began with a lucky blind date, and we have been together ever since. It was a wonderful and memorable experience to be introduced to the love of my life on a talk show, and I will always be grateful for the connection that was made that night.
How meet Todd Spiewak?
I met my husband, Todd Spiewak, through a mutual friend during a night out in New York. Struck up a conversation, and there was an instant connection between us. We found ourselves laughing and talking all night, and before we knew it, we had exchanged numbers. From there, our relationship blossomed into something beautiful and lasting. We continued to date, spending time together and getting to know each other better. It was a wonderful journey, and I am so grateful to have found such an amazing partner in Todd.
You have 3 dogs, right?
Yes, that's correct. I am a proud dog parent to 3 adorable dogs, and they bring joy and companionship into my life every day. Whether it's playing fetch in the park or cuddling on the couch, my dogs are a constant source of happiness and comfort. It's always wonderful to come home to their wagging tails and loving expressions, and I am grateful to have them as my furry companions.
What your favorite thing do with Todd Spiewak?
There are so many things I love to do with my husband, Todd Spiewak, but one of my favorites is simply spending a quiet evening at home together. Whether we're cooking dinner, watching a movie, or just talking and laughing, being in each other's company is always a joy. We have a deep connection and a strong bond, and it's easy to feel comfortable and at ease with each other. I cherish the simple moments we spend together, and I am grateful to have a partner who understands and appreciates me just as I am.
Do you still love him?
Yes, absolutely. My love and appreciation for Todd only grows stronger with each passing day. His love and support have been unwavering, and I am grateful for him and the life we've built together. Our connection is deep and meaningful, and I can't imagine going through life without him by my side. It's a joy to share everything with him and to watch our relationship grow and evolve over time. I am proud to call him my partner, and I look forward to all the adventures that lie ahead for us.
What do you, Winsett, said to your fans and family?
I wanted to take a moment to express my gratitude and appreciation to my fans and family for all the love and support they have given me over the years. Your unwavering support means the world to me, and I am truly humbled by your kindness and loyalty.
What do you say to your haters?
I would like to say to my haters that everyone is entitled to their own opinion, and I respect that. However, I would also like to express that negative comments and harsh criticism can be hurtful and counterproductive. It's important to remember that we're all human beings with feelings and vulnerabilities. So, my message to my haters is to try to be kinder and more considerate in expressing their opinions. Let's strive for constructive criticism instead of destructive words.
Dream house.
My dream house would be a beautiful and spacious home that reflects my personality and interests. It would have a warm and inviting atmosphere, with plenty of natural light and comfortable spaces to relax and unwind. As a music lover, I would have a spacious recording studio, where I could work on my music and record without distractions. The house would also have a reading room, where I could curl up with a book and escape into another world. Additionally, the house would have a large garden, where I could connect with nature and enjoy some fresh air.
Dream car.
The car of my dreams would have to be something practical and functional, with a touch of luxury. I would want a spacious and comfortable interior with top-notch tech features, like a reliable infotainment system and advanced safety technologies. In addition, I would prefer a car with excellent fuel efficiency, so I can save money on gas, and, of course, it would have to be eco-friendly. Finally, the car would have to be stylish and visually appealing, with just the right amount of pizzazz to make people stare as I drive by.
If have time machine, what year?
If I had a time machine and could travel to any year, I would probably choose to go back to the early 2000s. It was a period filled with nostalgic pop culture moments and a sense of hope for the future. Of course, I would also make sure to take advantage of the opportunity to invest in stocks and ensure a comfortable future for myself, but that would be secondary to the joy of being able to relive a simpler time.
If you saw your childhood self, what said to him?
If I had the chance to see myself as a child, I would tell him that he is loved, talented, and destined for great things. I would remind him to cherish every moment, to keep dreaming big, and never doubt himself. I would also warn him about facing challenges and failures along the way, but assure him that he has the strength and resilience to overcome any obstacle. Lastly, I would give my younger self a big hug and tell him that everything will turn out all right in the end.
Do you have any social media?
Yes, I have a social media presence and I try to interact with my fans as much as possible. I have accounts on several social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter where I share updates, behind-the-scenes content, and interact with my audience. It's a great way to connect with my fans and share a bit of my life with them. However, I want to remind you that the internet is a vast place, and there may be fake accounts pretending to be me or using my name to scam others. So please be cautious and make sure you're following the real me.
What the social media name?
Yes, I'm verified on Instagram as the real Jim Parsons with a blue check mark. That means that Instagram has confirmed my identity and authenticity, assuring that I am indeed the real and genuine person behind the account. If you see a blue check mark next to someone's username on Instagram, it's a sign that the account is authentic.
How long Todd Spiewak be together with him?
Todd Spiewak and I have been together since 2002. It's been an incredible journey of love and companionship, and I'm grateful to have shared so many beautiful moments with him. Todd is a fantastic partner and a constant source of joy in my life.
Well, Sheldon, thanks for coming. Do you like something you can...
This is Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory. Please feel free to turn on notifications if you'd like to. My dear friend Penny recently visited, and she encountered a tickle monster, which left her absolutely terrified. But don't worry, it's all in good fun. For all those who are watching, I want to give a special shout out to my wonderful husband, Todd Spiewak. I deeply love you, handsome. You're more than just my ride or die. You're the love of my life. I can't wait to snuggle up with you when I get home.